Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Boss Talks. And guys, the reason why we do this every week is because we want you to be the boss of your own life. And there's so many people out there living in the system, not believing in themselves and, not really taking control of their life. And we want to change that. And if that's one listener at a time, hey, that's what it is. But if you want to help us bring this to critical mass and help more than one person at a time, if you're listening to this and you find value in it, share it out. Don't just share it out and send it in a text or in a message. Share it out and tell them why they need to listen to it, why you thought of them. Because here is a startling fact, Kristine. Did you know that 90% of the planet is unhappy?
Oh, that's so sad.
That's crazy, right? And we believe 110%, well, I'm happy, you look happy. We might know something about how to be happy. And I haven't always been happy. I've been striving to find happiness, thinking that something outside of myself is going to make me happy one day. And oh my goodness, it took a ton of coaching from my amazing coach to actually drum it in. And I think back how many times he told me and showed me, and until I finally remember the day that it finally dropped, that I could be happy no matter what. I didn't have to be chasing something out in the future to be happy. And today we want to go crazy around something, because honestly, one of the keys to creating unhappiness in your life is comparison. And today this podcast is going to be about comparison, because we've listened to an amazing other podcast by Ed Milet, and it really has got so many of my friends and including us really thinking about where we're bringing this into our life. And really there's a knife edge between comparing yourself so much to other people that you become unhappy, and not enough so you actually just think you're so awesome you don't have to do anything. So Kristine, welcome to the podcast again. And tell me about what your beliefs around comparison is and what it does.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Joel. What a great introduction. And so many of us out there are chasing happiness. And I was the same as you. I've definitely been in unhappy situations before. And a lot of us turn to external sources to try and make ourselves happy. But what it comes down to is internal work. That's where the real happiness is going to come from. And I love that it is all going to be around comparison today, because you know what? I was comparing myself to other people in the same profession as me. And, but I felt more successful than them, even though they were earning the bigger bucks, even though, they perceived to have more success in life than I did. I actually felt more successful because I knew my relationships were doing better. I knew that internally I was feeling a lot happier because they just weren't happy as individuals. And I was just so amazed with where my life was at. And I'm like, oh my God, how good is life? And even though I wasn't earning as much or, having the success or the recognition and everything that they were getting, I still felt more successful within life because of that happiness radar. And so many of us compare ourselves to other people, but how often do we get caught up in comparing ourselves to a different time in our lives? A time in your life where maybe you were fitter. So let's hallucinate a bit here. Let's say that there's a mum out there, and before she had kids, she was lean, she was fit, she was playing sports, she was independent, she was just on fire in life. And then she has kids and the weight's crept on. She doesn't play sport anymore. Now she's feeling really lost. Maybe she's lost her independence, and she's unhappy because she keeps comparing herself to the person she was pre-kids. So this is what happens when we start comparing ourselves to ourselves at a previous time. And it's the same with our wealth. There might be a time in your life where you are wealthier than what you are today, and you keep comparing yourself to that time. But you've got to realize, guys, that life is a journey. we go through phases. We go through different phases through our life. Different opportunities come, different jobs come and go. Sometimes we've got kids in our household. Sometimes they move out. You know, all these kind of things are factored in. And what we want you to take from this podcast today is that happiness is an internal job, and it shouldn't matter what is going on around you or what's happened in the past. You should be really happy and fulfilled with where you are today. And that's really where we're going to focus today, isn't it, Joel?
Absolutely. And like, I love what your story there, where you were saying you were happy with your life, even though you weren't getting the recognition that other people were getting. And, you know, like, I'm not saying that those people were after the recognition, but if that was something that you required to be happy, you were like giving your power away. That's such a big thing. And like, I just love how you didn't need that, because that just shows someone who's done a lot of work. Because, you know, maybe we are born being happy. We probably are. I believe that we get taught to be unhappy, maybe because it serves a larger purpose and like for other people. But if we can to see you being able to be happy no matter what, that's what took years of work for my coach to get into my head. That, you know, I was always looking for this, this like the car, the money, the house, the relationship, you know, these things that I was, you know, even though I had those things, I was looking for the next level all the time. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't understand why or how I was meant to chase these goals whilst being happy with having the feeling of having them right now and then. And it took me in a circle. It took me a long time. Maybe I'm a little bit slow, but then the way he explained it was like, okay, so let's just say there's people out there that want to have a private jet. Well, you could spend 25 years chasing something that you think is going to make you feel a certain way. And then when you get there, it doesn't make you feel that way anyway. So you can spend 25 years chasing happiness, get to the goal, and then not be happy. It's crazy, right? Whereas
so
you
crazy.
can have the feeling right now and be happy right now, enjoy the journey. And then when you get there, you're just like, cool, I've been happy all these years. Because imagine what you can miss out in the next 5, 10, 20 years if you're just chasing something outside of you to make you happy. But like, you don't do that. So were you a natural, or did that take work?
Oh, it took a lot of work. It really did. And it doesn't happen overnight. Like, you've got to be constantly catching your thoughts. You've got to be constantly switching the thoughts that are coming in, because our brain wants to keep us safe. Our brain is there to protect us and keep us safe in our comfort zones. And I think the more self-development you do, the more that you learn about yourself, the more that you uncover, the easier the process becomes, and you've got to create habits out of it. So I think social media has added to the whole comparison game. It's actually elevated it. And I spoke about this on a Facebook Live the other day, Joel, where, you know, every person out there has 3 different personas. You have your public persona. You've got the persona that is the perfect version of you, you know, and that's what everyone's putting out there on social media. Well, not everyone, but most people are putting that version out there on social media. It's the happy, you know, the positive version of themselves. And then there's the second persona, which is the private persona. And that's what you're like at home. That's what people are really like behind the scenes. That's when psycho mum comes out. That's when the cranky version of you comes out. That's when the screamer, the yeller, or, you know, the introvert comes out. You know, I'm not like this all the time throughout my day. There's times in my day where I just need solitude, where I don't want to talk to anybody, where I'm just there sitting in my thoughts or doing my own thing, where I don't want to be the bundle of energy that I am in front of the camera, you know. So, you know, that's people's second persona. And then the third one is the private persona. And that's the stuff that's going on in here. That's the stuff that people won't know, because that's intimate to you. That's your thoughts and everything like that. So through social media, don't start comparing yourself to people that you see in there, because that's not the real them. They're just showing you one side, one version of them, and it's usually their best version, you know. But behind the scenes, there's a whole nother version that you haven't seen. And I said this the other day as well, Joel, like, you know, I'll say something, like, a lot of people follow me and a lot of people often draw inspiration from what I do. But I say to them, don't ever put me on a pedestal, because that will put you in a pit. And also, I'm going to say something one day, or I'm going to do something that you're not going to agree with, or people that follow me are not going to agree with, because we've all got different beliefs, different perceptions and everything like that. And I'll say one thing that you will totally disagree with, and you'll be like, oh, and it will change your whole perception around me. Does that make sense? So we've got to stop comparing ourselves to people, but also see people as equal levels, equal parties, eye to eye. Don't put people up on pedestals. Celebrities, sports players, all those people. Yes, they do extraordinary things, but we could do those things as well if we put in the effort and the time and everything that they do into that particular talent. Okay, so make sure that you're not comparing yourself with other people's chapters in their life as well. A lot of people come into our profession, Joel, and I've been in our profession for 7 years, and a lot of people come in and they're comparing their first week, their first month with my 7-year history, and you can't do that. I started off awkward. I started off not knowing what to do, what to say, all those things, not knowing much about the profession and everything. And you've got to find your badges along the way. You've got to make the mistakes, and it's the same in any profession. So don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20 is kind of what I'm getting at.
Outstanding. And I got 2 things I want to bring up. Funny story that I think it's funny, and I think you'll find it funny, but I had a talking about putting people on pedestals, right? This is before I moved to the Gold Coast, and I was still doing a lot of growth, and I did someone's course that we both know, and at the end of it, this woman asked for a testimonial and some feedback, right? So I told my coach that was us, and I wanted to reach out, and this person was on a pedestal for me, because I was like, holy crap. Anyway, it took me 3 months, and it was up until my coach said, oh, how'd you go giving that testimonial through? I said, I haven't done it again. And he goes, Joel, you've taken something that should take 20 seconds, literally 20 seconds, and made it 3 months, and you're procrastinating over it, and you're worrying about it, and the perfectionist is trying to come out with you. He said, send it, and whether they like it or not is their problem, not yours. And I sent it in about 30, I did it in 30. He says, if this takes more than 40 seconds, you're in big trouble. And I went and did it, and they loved it. And I was just honest. I just told them how I felt, and I was just but I made it so much harder than it had to be, because they were on a pedestal. And obviously that pedestal was there because I was comparing myself. Mm-hmm. And that didn't serve me. That wasted months of my brain power, because that was just coming up all the time for me. About the 3 identities, I've heard a different way of saying it, but it's the same message. It's you aren't who you think you are, and you're not what people think you are. You are what you think people think you are. And if you can let go of that and stop giving a shit, then you'll just be you, right? You'll just be you. You'll start
Absolutely.
doing Facebook Lives in trees, and you'll start doing breakdance moves on stage, and you'll start living a crazy fun life. You'll have more fun. Because it's so funny. I was on a coaching call previous to this, and this amazing lady is going through some tough times, and she's and it was a group call, and she reached out, she got vulnerable and asked for help, and she said, I felt really weird reaching out for help and saying what I needed in front of everyone, because I was really frightened of being judged. And I said, well, you can't possibly be judged for those thoughts, because she said, I'll be judged for my thoughts. I said, you can't be judged for your thoughts, because they're not yours. We've all had them too. We all have them. Everyone on the call is having them. So the comparison game, it just leads to judgment, leads to so many things. It's just misused, it can be really, really, really dangerous for people. So
absolutely. And that'll bring us on to another point in a second of how to use it for good, so that you can use comparison for good, which I'll talk about in a second. But I just want to share with people too that, when you're watching people on social media and they're so positive and inspiring, and they're having lots of fun, and you're comparing yourself, and you're you start to get really down, and you have that feeling, that pit in the bottom of your stomach, and you start feeling, I don't know what it is. It's like a frustration almost. It's not that you're frustrated at those people. It's that you're comparing yourself to where you are right now and what you're not doing compared to what they are doing. Does that make sense? So you're not actually frustrated at them. It's the situation that you're in now. And the other thing too is when you're seeing people have success out there, you're not upset with the success that they're having. It's the comparison to the success that you're not having. That's what makes your blood boil. That's what is making you feel that that unhappiness, that unworthiness. But you can really turn this around, and you can use comparison for good. You can use it for fuel. You can use it as a weapon, and for you to help you step into your power. And you've got to first recognize that you can't change anything externally to make you happy internally. This has to be an internal job. So recognizing that you're not your possessions, you're not your titles, you're not your popularity, you're not your recognition, you're not your accolades, you're not any of that. And we need to just accept and love ourselves for who we are, not any of that other bullshit that comes with it. You know what I mean? So happiness comes from surrendering. It comes from accepting yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you've heard me talk about this before, listeners, on some of the other podcasts. You can't just love all the good bits about yourself. That'd just be like loving the right side of you and going around in circles. You've got to love the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you've got to realize that your imperfections actually make you perfect. So, there's traits to me that I'm not proud of having, but everyone has traits that they're not proud of, but I still own them and I still love them because they serve me, and, sometimes I can be really pig-headed and stubborn, but sometimes that serves me as well, so owning those traits and getting really comfortable with the fact that, it's the imperfections that actually make you perfect, unique, and you've just got to love yourself no matter what. But to use comparison in a good way, like I know that I've run a marathon before. Now I'm struggling to run 5 to 10 Ks at the moment. But if I get stuck in comparison using it as bad, then I'll just be beating myself up. But if I use it as good and I go, you know what, I've done it before, I can do it again. So I'm just going to book in and I'll run my next marathon and I'll hit that goal, So that's where you can use it for good. It's the same with wealth. When my business was at its peak and I was earning a certain income level, I'm not at that income level at the moment, but it's like, you know what, you've done it before, you do it again. You'll get back there. So you use the comparison to go, you know what, that's actually going to be my fuel because I know that I'm capable of recreating that and some, going past that, pushing past that and really creating more. So that's what I love about comparison as well, is that it's not always bad. It's not always evil. You can actually use it as your fuel to get ahead in life.
Amazing. And like, something that got brought up to me recently was that in a lot of cases, and we talk about the internal version of yourself, particularly when it comes to body image and women, a lot of women are comparing themselves not to other women, but to an idealistic version of themselves. And that's where a lot of pain comes, because it's like there is a timeline where you made every decision correctly, where you did everything right, I guess, and you're following that. That's leading you to like unhappiness, and like men do it as well with other certain things that are important to us as well. But like a lot of the time you are dangerously comparing yourself to what a perfect version of yourself would look like right now. Or you can, like, that's disempowering. Or you can quickly jump in there and say, what would the perfect version of myself do right now? Well, the perfect version of yourself would just take a step in the right direction. It wouldn't sit there and beat themselves up. It wouldn't make, wouldn't be calling themselves nasty names on the inside. You know what I mean? And talking crap to yourself. They would be out there just having a go, realizing that, when's the best time to plant an oak tree? Well, 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Now. So you just take action to move forward. So like you can sit there unconsciously comparing yourself to a perfect version of yourself and wallow in pity and like where that takes you. Like we've all done it. Or we can use it as an empowering version and go, wow, what would the perfect version of myself do now? Okay, well they would go make more money, or they'd go ring that client. The perfect version of me has a lot more confidence. So that confidence would come through and step forward. you know, and do stuff. So what would they do now? So that's empowering. And just something like, if you are seeing something that someone else is doing, you can't observe it. You can't register it in your brain if you can't achieve it yourself. It's actually impossible for you to see it and not be able to achieve it. So like if someone has a $1 million income and you can notice it, well, they took steps to create that. So something I do when I see someone who's awesome, and I've got a lot of time for, I congratulate them on their wins, and I ask them how they did it. They'll tell you. They would know. No one's going to keep it. Anyone that keeps it a secret is lying about their success. I can tell you right now. So if anyone's hiding their IP underneath a veil or hiding how they did things, you know, they're lying. So don't worry about them. Come to the people like Kristine and many others who will just go, sure, let's sit down. I'll give you my time and I'll show you how I did it. Because she will. So yeah, that's my little rant. Like, how else can we make it empowering? How else can we empower?
Well, I love that, Joel. And something that sort of crossed my mind as well when you were talking before about women in their body image. I just want to go back to that point. You know which magazines or the front covers that sell the most copies? It's when they show the pictures of the celebrities that are now bigger than what they used to be. They're the ones that sell the most. And I'll tell you why. People buy those magazines because it makes the individual buying that magazine feel better about themselves. Does that make sense? So seeing someone else in a shitty situation that you're comparing yourself to makes you feel better, which is really fucked up, guys. Seriously, like, because you're not loving yourself enough for who you are. So then you go and buy a magazine. So you see someone else in a worse position or the same situation, and that makes you feel better because they're in the same boat or they're struggling, or seeing someone else struggle makes you feel okay because it allows you and gives you the excuse to play small, and it allows you to, be your lower self. Now I'm here to cut through that bullshit today and say, you know what? Stop buying the friggin' magazines. Love yourself for who you are, the way that you look, and that is going to come out and have massive impact on your entire relationships, not just with yourself, but on everyone else around you. When you can own the way that you look. Now, there's parts of my body that I don't particularly like, but I don't give a shit. It's who I am, and I am totally in love with the person I am today, and that just hasn't happened overnight. Yes, it takes work. There's always bits of flab that we're like, oh, I wish that was tighter, or I wish this looked better, or, I've got a tooth that is rotting because I went and filled in a rugby game once for someone. I got coat hangered by a big New Zealander girl, and now I'm going to have to get this tooth replaced. But, I'm not worried about it. Like, yes, it's a pain and it stands out sometimes, and now everyone's going to be looking at it because I mentioned it. But you know what, guys? It's life. We have to own ourselves, love ourselves, accept ourselves, and surrender to ourselves, and just go, you know what? I don't want to get to, actually someone had this conversation with me today when I was coaching them on a call. They said, Kristine, but how do you, like, in all the chaos, in all the mess and everything, how do you cope with, like, the overwhelm and everything that's going on, and all the comparison and, and the people having success and the noise and everything? How do you cope? I said, you know what? I look to my future self. I look to my future self and I look back and go, why was I worried about that? Why was I worried about that tiny little menial thing that now means nothing? You know what? At the end of the day, guys, it all comes down to love and connection. That's it. It doesn't come down to the possessions that you have. It doesn't come down to, the amount of cars, the type of car, the house that you're living in. It doesn't. It comes down to the happiness, the love that you feel, the love that you gave, the love that you feel, and what you got to act, the experiences you got to have, that your soul got to have. We hear Keurig talk about that all the time. But I kind of want to finish on this note, Joel, and it's something I thought about today. And when we're our lower selves, that's when we live in misery. But when we're our higher selves, that's when we live in mastery. So where do you guys want to live? Do you want to live in misery for the rest of your life, or do you rather flip it and start living in your mastery? For me, that's what I'm aiming for. And you know what? On a daily basis, I get bloody close to that. I know I'm capable of so much more. Joel, you're capable of so much more, but we're working on it. We're taking the steps that get us closer, and we have our blinkers on. We are not comparing ourselves to anyone or anything. we know what we want, and we're putting one step behind the other. We're doing the work, the internal work, so that we can have the impact, so that we can affect the masses. And you can only do that when you are closer to the one, which is you. When you're in spirit and when you are connected and when you're living within your core values, comparison doesn't even come into it, you know? So that's my 2 cents for today.
Oh, that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. And I want to put you on the spot after, I'm going to share something how I did it. So Kirik recently, so I've had highs and lows over the last couple of weeks, and Kirik, I work with Kirik regularly, and you should check out his stuff if you haven't already. It's crazy. Reach out to us and I'll help you get in contact with him. Although what happened was I had massive highs, and then I had I didn't even know how to handle it, and I was looking for the sabotage button, and I was okay. So then I found it. I didn't sabotage, but I found a way to get back to feeling not as amazing. So how he told me to handle it is to get back in front of the mirror, look at yourself in the eyes, and just let whatever comes out come out. Go tell yourself that you do mirror work, look into your soul and tell yourself that you love yourself. And for those now that are hearing this and going, oh, that's egotistical. No, it's egotistical not to do that, because love is God and ego is edging God out. So if you don't, God is love. So if you're not loving yourself, you are edging God out. That's what ego is. So he said, if tears come up, let it out. Don't ask why. Just let it come out. He says, because if there's garbage getting taken out to the garbage bin, do you stop it at the front door and open up the bag and look and see what's in there, or do you just throw the garbage out? He said, just it's your body knows what it's doing. Get rid of it. He said, and just realize the old version of you 2 years ago would be so proud of you now. Look how far you've come. Look how far you've come. You've been through 100% of your hardest days and you're still here. You are a being of infinite potential. And really just dig deep into just being complete yourself. You're more than enough. You are a complete being. You don't need, most people are running outside thinking they're not enough. And if they're not enough, they can't be loved. And if they can't be loved, they might as well be dead. And then the fear of death kicks in, and then you're in fear for your entire life. That's low vibe, right? That's coaching 101 for people who want to be a coach. What you need to understand is that you are enough. You're acceptable as you are. You're a blessing on this planet. You are absolutely perfect the way you are because of your uniqueness. It's your flaws that make you unique. Otherwise, we'd all be identical twins walking around. It'd be so boring.
That'd be scary.
Oh my God, we'd all be great dancers on stage. We'd all be super great at dancing. But we're not. You need someone like me up there who's got 3 left feet. But you know what I mean? So, know that you're complete. Know that you're worthy. Know that you're worthy of your goals and dreams. And just because there's always going to be someone better looking than you. There's always going to be someone smarter. There's always going to be someone who earns more money or gets there quicker than you. That's got no reflection on you. What happens if you're the person that inspired them? You know what I mean? I had a chat. Like I said, the coaching call before, and we're speaking about the industry that we're in. And I said, well, until we out-earn the person that's training us, we don't change the training, right? And I said, and the day we go past is the day we walk up and have a discussion about reinventing the wheel. And I said, oh, this person might have something to say about us overtaking them in earnings. And I left her to pause for a minute and I thought about it and I said, you know what she'd say? Congratulations. So that's just and that's a person that I bet you that a lot of people compare themselves to. And she would definitely say congratulations and be your biggest cheerleader. So it's all in her head, Kristine. It's all in her head. What do you reckon? So I got the mirror work. What would you suggest people do to stop the comparison? Or use it effectively?
I love that mirror work. And I heard of that a few years ago when I wasn't happy with myself. And when I did it, the tears did come up. And I was telling myself, I love you. But what I was saying back in my head was, you're a liar. And all these emotions came up because I didn't love myself. I wanted to change this. I wanted to change that. I hated that I felt like this. I hated that I wasn't doing this, you know, that I felt really stuck and frustrated, and there was things physically about my body I hated, you know, and things like that. And so yeah, the tears did come up, and it was, I suppose for me, it was reading books like How Would Love Respond is an incredible book for people to read. It's Keurig Ashley's book. If you haven't read it, How Would Love Respond is amazing. I've done a lot of work with coaches and mentors that, you know, really teach you that everything just comes back to love. Even when people react negatively to you, they're coming from a place of love. They don't want to see you get hurt, or they're trying to protect you in some way. Okay, so everything comes from love, and when you can see that, you look at the world, you see the world in a whole different light. And for me, yep, the mirror work is amazing. But getting surrounded by coaches and mentors that can help you through this. Because here's what I do know, Joel, is if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you keep hanging out with the same people, you keep in the same relationship where you're not happy but you're content, it's not even your relationship, it's the one with yourself. That's the one you have to go to work on. When there was problems in my relationship with Tom, it wasn't the relationship between the two of us. It was me. I had to go and do the internal work. I was focusing on the wrong things. I was focusing on the things that weren't working rather than focusing on the things that were working, or focusing on the things that I did want to change, you know? And once I started doing that, our relationship went to a whole new level, you know? And I think this is what people do. We nitpick and we compare all the negative things, and it's the same with our kids. How often do we reward our kids, or do we say to our kids, wow, you guys are playing so well together, or wow, you guys are eating dinner so nicely. It's so nice to have a beautiful dinner where there's no arguments or no fussing, or wow, geez, you guys did that really well, or you know, you cleaned your word. Like rewarding them through verbiage. How often do we do that? Most of the time we're just snapping at the things that they're not getting right, you know, and we're turning, we're missing all the opportunities to be positive, and we're only picking up the few things, and that's where we're focusing on, and then that creates this whole energy within the house and within the relationship as well, you know. So for me, to finish, as I said, like, where do you want to live? Do you want to live in your lower self or your upper self? Do you want to live a life of misery and comparison and negativity? Or do you want to live in a life of mastery where you're your best version, or you're working towards your best version, where you're learning and growing, where your ego is put aside, where you're going into a room and you're acting as the dumbest person in that room because you want to get the knowledge, like exactly like Joel said. When there's people around you that have had more success, asking them, how did you do that? Rather than going, oh, they only got it because of this, or because they're pretty, or because they're smarter than me, or no, don't do that. That's a closed off mentality. Go and ask them, wow, I can't believe you pulled that off in that amount of time. That's incredible. How did you do it? You know, and when you do that, oh my gosh, it has ripple effects. It really does. And then you grow, and then you start to get the success that you've seen other people get as well. So be the cheerleader for others. Don't be the comparison. You know, don't let that, you know, sort of steal your thunder or steal your limelight. Like, let the cheerleader in you come out and really be happy for other people. And when you do that, you attract more success into your life. It's that law of attraction. And another thing that I do as well is I listen to people like, what's her name? Esther Hicks, you know, the people that wrote Law of Attraction. Listening to people like that, they actually talk about comparison. And when you see success in others, recognizing that success, you know, rather than that tall poppy syndrome where we try and pull people down, celebrate them, celebrate what they've achieved. And it could be just a little thing. You know, Joel talks about me dancing like a dork up on stage. Not a dork, they weren't your words, but, you know, dancing up on stage, you know, that's just one part of me that comes out sometimes when I'm in a room full of good music and the energy's high. Sometimes I'll pull out some moves on stage. So, you know, celebrate that. Go and, like, Joel was looking at me thinking, oh my goodness, I could never do that. But now he's changed his tune. He goes, well, why can't I do that? Why can't I get up there and have some fun and break a few moves as well? So that's what it's about, guys. It's about having fun, loving yourself, all your bits, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and playing at playing at a higher level, holding yourself to a higher standard. And when you can do that, the comparison doesn't even come into it.
That was amazing. I'm not even going to say any more other than what a call, Kristine. You have nailed it again. And this was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, because this took me a long time to learn, and I'm still learning it every day. And like, we're working on ourselves every day, and that's how you get it, guys. I know the other gurus make out there's like some of them make out anyway, that, you know, they've got a one event and everything's going to change, and that's complete BS. Because it's the tactics you use afterwards and the action that you take afterwards that brings it home. So take this, listen to it over and over again, share it with your friends, because if they are down and out and feeling sad or unhappy, they are comparing themselves to something somewhere. Because the only way you can be unhappy, nothing's good, bad, big, small, unless it's compared to something. So have a most outstanding day and share this around.
You.
Damn. Yeah.